Okay, here I'm going to show you a little bit more about how to use Schoology Conferences. Here I'm just in one of my groups that I've made. Keep in mind if you're doing this within a group or a course, to start a conference, you have to have administrative privileges for that group or course. Um, to start a new conference, you're simply just going to click here, Create New Conference. You're going to give that conference a name. Um, I'm just going to give it my last name and I'll put testing next to it because I'm just testing this out for you. Then you're going to have to put a start time. We're going to put today's date, the 23rd, and it is almost 5 o'clock, so I'm going to put 5 o'clock p.m. You don't have to put an end time, and also know that if you put an end time, that doesn't mean that the conference will automatically kick you out and end at that time. It just is simply for scheduling purposes, just like on a meeting at Outlook or something like that, that you're scheduling a start and end time. Same thing, if you don't start it by the start time, it doesn't mean that you can't enter or start the meeting and you have to start a new one. Then you just click create. Then you'll see the settings wheel here to either edit it or delete it in case you made a mistake. It'll show your start time, your end time if you gave one, and it'll start the status. Until you start the conference or another admin of your group or course starts the conference, it's just going to look all grayed out and no one's going to be able to click over here on the title to enter that conference. But as soon as you start the conference as the admin, it's going to pop up a new window for you. That's where the conference will begin to load. You're going to have to test your microphone through an echo test, and you'll see what that sounds like here in a minute. You also have to allow the permissions for it. Testing, test.
You are currently the only person in this conference.
All right, and here obviously I did not invite anyone else. This is just for training purposes. What you'll see initially in the very beginning is up here at top, you'll see my name because I'm the one talking. And as I stop talking, you should see that it grays out, and then eventually it will disappear if I stop talking long enough. And then whoever's talking or making noise, those names will appear up in this top row, and it makes it real easy to just click on their name and it'll mute them. So if you have that one student or team member that comes into your meeting or your conference rather, and is not being able to figure out their microphone or having some issue or a barking dog in the background, you can simply click their name up here and you can type in the chat, hey, Bob, your mic is making too much noise. I muted you, fix that issue, and then I'll unmute you. Or you could say that because obviously they'd be able to hear you. Their microphone might not be working correctly. You'll also see that the next feature is down here at the very bottom. You see that as I talk, that's going to be making a little animation. If I stop talking, it kind of goes away. And then at any time, if I wanted to mute myself, instead of using the buttons on my computer to mute the entire audio, I can just mute my audio in this particular app by unchecking that.
You are now muted.
And it'll announce that you're muted. It'll show that your microphone is off. And then obviously at any time, you can click that again to turn your microphone back on. This would be the audio portion. If you click that off, you'll stop hearing the audio of the other participants. If you click this, it'll start turning on your webcam. It does give you a little preview of what your webcam looks like, so you can adjust whatever you need to adjust. Maybe lighting is horrible. Maybe your camera is pointed at a different or weird angle. So you can make any adjustments before you start sharing it. It does give you that preview. And then here you have your screen share, where you can turn on your screen sharing to be able to do different presentations or whatnot through screen sharing. Over here, you're going to have your list of users. So you'll have everybody who's on the call with you or on the conference with you, and you'll be able to interact with those people as a presenter of this group. you'll be able to click on their name and either mute them, unmute them, block them, kick them off, certain things like that. Here you also see your public chat. This is a chat that's shared with all members of the conference. So anything typed here is also saved if you're recording it, and also seen by every single participant. If you want to share notes with any participants, you'll be able to click here with shared notes, and anything you type in this section is seen by all participants and able to be copied and pasted by all participants. So for example, if you had a bunch of vocabulary that you were reviewing with some of your students, you might have in Word, have all that stuff typed up and then copy and paste it into the shared notes as soon as you start the conference. And then you could instruct the students to go in there and copy and paste it maybe during that beginning part of the conference where people are starting to get logged on. That way they have those notes for later use. And then at any time you can bounce back to public chat. And you can also close public chat simply by clicking that, and then reopen it simply by clicking that. Again, you're going to have some more privileges here because you are the presenter. So if you hit this gear icon, you're going to have clear all status icons, mute all users except presenter, save usernames, lock viewers, and then you're going to be able to create breakout rooms and such. With breakout rooms, I'll probably create a separate video if there's interest on that. Depending on the size of your conference and what you're teaching, there may not even be any use for that or need for that particular feature. But if there is, please comment on the video and I'll make sure that I go over that with you. For the most part, the most common one you're probably going to use is either mute all viewers or all users except the presenter. You might even save usernames. That's going to just download a list of everybody who was on the conference. Maybe that's something you want to use as either attendance or extra credit giving, or however your particular district is allowing you to do live meetings. Maybe that's just for your own knowledge to follow back up on students who weren't able to view it live. Maybe you could message them a recording of it. Here's the other powerful feature under this gear icon. It's the locking viewers. Here you can lock out all viewers from sharing their webcam, microphone, public chats, private chats, and the ability to edit the shared notes as well as see other viewers in the list. Now, primarily being used as a way to meet with students, I almost always lock out private chats so that they don't have that ability to chat with one another while I'm trying to do direct instruction. Obviously, that's something you can set each time if that's something you want to allow or not allow. And then here's the other kind of interesting or weird way that they do this in the Schoology conferences. If I were to come over here and mute all users except presenter, all that student would have to do is unmute themselves and then they can immediately talk again. However, if I go to lock viewers and I lock the ability to share a microphone, then that student is not going to be able to unmute themselves because they're not able to edit that setting. So if I go ahead and apply that, none of the users would be able to unmute themselves. So that may be a way to control like a rowdy room that maybe it's the first time they're using it and they're not clear of the expectations that you set. Okay, so now we'll go on to some more common uses for some of the other settings in here. Here you always default to this slide. You can go to a blank slide just by clicking next, and you can have use of a full whiteboard. Here you have all these tool options where you can select any of these, and you can just simply select the pen tool and start writing directly on that. Maybe you're a math teacher like me and you want to simply work out example problems that were provided in either a worksheet or textbook that you're sharing with your students. You can also allow students to write on the whiteboard with you. Maybe it's something where you have some problems typed out already and you're going to allow each student to work on one problem, and maybe you could have 3 or 4 students at a time being the ones that are working out the problems. and then maybe spot errors as you go along. Obviously, at any point, if that's an issue, you can always turn that on and off. It's just a toggle switch. You can also delete all the annotations, as I've done here before, and then you can undo the most recent annotation. So if I say hi, but I mess up on something, I can undo the most recent one, and kind of like an undo button in any other app. You can also change the drawing thickness. And then obviously you can keep going on to next slide, and this will continue going onto multiple slides, as many as you want to add. Then let's go on to this feature, which is called Actions. You can start a poll, you can upload a presentation, and you can share an external video. So if you start a poll, the one thing I'll tell you is it might be best to have those questions written out ahead of time and either copy and paste them into the poll or have them in your presentation so that they're A, B, C, or 1, 2, 3 kind of select one. That'll make the polling a little bit easier because as you see, I have a yes, no, true, false, A, B, and then all the way up to A, B, C, D, E. So you could have up to 5 choices. You can also create a custom poll, but like I said before, I would recommend having that already pre-typed out as maybe questions at the end of your presentation so that they're set up to be multiple choice or true, false, yes, no type of questions. There is one caveat to the polling. It will not allow you to post your poll results until every single one of the members in the chat, or I'm sorry, in the conference have selected a poll option. Okay, so here again at the Actions button, we also have the ability to upload a presentation, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. It takes you to this dialog. You're going to browse for a file, and let's say, oh, you stumbled into my memes folder. Let's see, here you have a Chapter 1 quiz. We're going to upload that. It'll take just a second here. And now I have this quiz, and I can use buttons. And again, you could use this with a PDF, a Word document, a PowerPoint presentation, and it'll pop up just like this. You'll be able to write on it. Students will be able to write on it. You can also do fit to width, and it'll fit the entire PDF to the width of the available screen. And here you could simply turn on the multi-user whiteboard feature, and you could tell, the first student in the list to do problem 1, second student in the list to do problem 2, and they could each be working those out right here in front of everybody, and then putting their answer on the line as they finish. That's certainly one way to use it. And then my next feature here, while you have a document that you're sharing in this way via the Actions and then presentation, you can simply use your mouse scrolling wheel to zoom in like this to any point to enlarge it or enhance it. Keep in mind, it will scroll or zoom in to wherever your mouse is pointed. So wherever your cursor is, that's where it will zoom as a center point. So that's that feature. You can also share an external video. So if you had a URL to like a YouTube video or any one of those other sites that has a video share feature, you can paste that link here. You can share that video, and then you can scrub through that video with your students. Like, let's say you wanted to start at 2 minutes in, you can scrub right to the 2-minute mark and then watch it from there until you're done with whatever concept or a point that you're trying to make in that video. And that's going to be all of those actions that you're able to do. Here I have another thing to share with you, that is the recording feature. Depending on your particular membership with your district, I know that Manatee County and here in Florida only has a 7-day saving with Schoology Conferences. So any recording that you record here will only be available for 7 days after it's posted. So if you're looking to have it longer than that, you're going to have to use some combination of screen recorders or some other method to be able to make sure that you're archiving that on your own hard drive or web server yourself. But basically, you'll just click Start Recording, and then it'll prompt you, yes, you want to start the recording. You can start that recording anytime. It's going to start ticking off the recording mark. And then let's say you need to pause for a minute, or there's an interruption, or you're giving the students time to work on something. Maybe you're going to click that again. You can pause the recording. It's going to stop recording for the purposes of the Schoology Conferences recording. If you're using another screen recorder or something like that on top of it, you would probably also want to pause that recording. And then you can simply click Resume Recording, and it'll continue recording that conference. Here, I'll go ahead and pause it because there's no need for this to be up in my group. And then at that point, if you're done with your conference, you can simply click Options and End Meeting. That's going to then take you out of this conference. It'll ask you, are you sure? That'll kick everybody out of the conference. It's going to ask you for feedback, obviously. And then you're kicked back to your group. And then here, it should automatically end it. But before I do that, I just wanted to show you what it would look like if you wanted to have a student or other staff member join your conference. They would just go to whatever group that is that you've created it in, or whatever course that is that you created it in. And they would click this now that it's a blue clickable link. And they would launch that same window as when you started the conference. But if I were to just refresh this page, you'll see that that conference is gone because I ended it in that window. However, it's not gone forever. If you look over into completed, you'll see that that's the name of that group that we just, or that conference that we just did. And there is not a recording yet, because it does take, I've seen it take anywhere from 5 minutes to maybe an hour or two, depending on the load on the server at that point, for that recording to show up. When it does show up under completed, you will see a play button to be able to click a conference and play that conference back. And I think that's pretty much all I have for you today on conferences. Again, if you have a specific question or need about anything Schoology related, please feel free to comment on this or any one of my other Schoology help videos.